Talking with the experts.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts, where we believe that success is a journey, and every journey is easier with help from friends. That's why we bring you top-notch experts and real business heroes eager to share their lessons from the road to success. We delve into new topics each week: effective marketing strategies, innovative problem solving, financial planning, and team building. We tackle everything you need to know to grow your business and keep it thriving. Whether you dream about launching your first startup or are a business veteran looking to shake things up, we've got you covered. With each episode, you'll gain knowledge, boost your confidence, and be inspired to take action. So, grab a coffee, make yourself comfortable, and join our exciting journey. You're not alone in this. We're here, guiding you, cheering for you, and celebrating each milestone. Let's turn your business dreams into reality, starting today. Here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Talking with the experts.
Jade Francesca, in episode 490, shares with us how we can trade our marketing overwhelm for a strategy that works for us.
Tip that I always give my audience is to really, whenever you're creating any form of content, think of it as if you were telling a friend. Remove that pressure that this is a marketing asset. Remove the pressure that this is, for money or to sell or to do any of that. Because unfortunately, because selling has been done in a very unethical way by a lot of people in our past, and being authentic is kind of a new trend. So people, that the concept of marketing and selling and all of that has a very loaded, unpleasant, and sometimes negative, connotation. And so when we put that in our own minds and we want to show up as, authentic, genuine, transparent on all of that, and then we put those marketing, selling, and salesy and all of those words in our heads, it can influence the way that we're writing without us being actually conscious of it. And I've seen that.
Talking with the experts.
Is starting a podcast on your bucket list? Unlock successful podcasting for your business with this 81-page ebook. From passive listener to raving loyalist, the ultimate playbook to mastering podcasting for service-based businesses. Get your copy today. Purchase for $27 for a limited time. Or find it at rose-davidson.com in the store.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is all about business, by business owners, for business owners. You can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. Now, we all know that a lot of entrepreneurs are growing really dissatisfied and defeated with the lack of progress that they're making in their business. And people just aren't visiting their websites, they're not listening to their podcast, not answering their direct messages, and they're not engaging with the things that the business owner posts. They're not buying their offers, and it just goes on and on and on and on. My next guest, Jade Francesca, is going to be talking to us about how we can strategize with creativity and align our marketing to trade our marketing overwhelm for strategy that works for everyone. Welcome, Jade. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so how did you get into doing what you're doing?
So I actually first started during the pandemic because I honestly just wanted to work from home. It started as simple as that. And when I started working with clients, I was doing virtual assistance work, and I thought I was going to do a lot of admin work. But as it turns out, a lot of my clients needed help with marketing. And I saw that there was a real need in finding marketing solutions that really help people have a strategy that worked for them instead of having to do a strategy that just didn't feel good, that was not giving results, and that was leaving a lot of my clients overwhelmed.
Yeah, a lot of us, I can put my hand up for that. A lot of us need help with our marketing. We're not, it's not one of our zones of genius, and it's always good when there are people in the marketplace that can offer those wonderful services. So what do you do? Like, how do you help people with their marketing? How do you help them to strategize their marketing?
So I do that in a bunch of different ways. I really strongly believe in meeting my clients where they're at. I mostly work with people who have to do their marketing, or they might have a VA or someone that helps repurpose their content. But at the end of the day, they do have to do a lot of their marketing assets themselves. And so I help them in many different ways. So I help them first with, getting knowledge, right? Getting knowledge about what is out there, because there's so many things that we can do now with digital marketing. There's really no limits to what we can achieve now, especially with the world of AI really helping us repurpose our content all across the board. So I really want to help people just gain more knowledge about what is accessible to them so that they can choose more wisely what they want to be doing instead of having to do something they don't like doing. So that's really the first step. And I do that through my content, my membership, and through my consultations. And then once people have that knowledge and they know, what they want to be doing next, it's about finding a strategy that's really going to help them implement that knowledge. Because at the end of the day, we learn so much, but we don't often take the time to actually implement. And I put myself in that box as well, because I will do, all of the trainings, all of the courses, I will download, like all of the PDFs. But then it's like, I feel I spend more time downloading those PDFs and actually reading them and implementing them. So part of what I do is really encouraging people to implement what they're learning and actually go on there and do what we call imperfect action or messy action, or just any sort of action to just kind of get started. Because the way that I teach my audience to create a lot of their content is to just start by creating, right? Not thinking about the fact that it's going to be, on your social media or on your website or on your email. Just create from the heart, and then you can go on and edit, make it better, optimize it. But you need to create it first from a heart-centered place, because that is so much easier to create, right? I always say that the creative brain and the editing brain is just completely separate. And a lot of people, what happens is that they try to create with an editing brain. But the editing part of the brain really has to come after you've created something, after you have a rough draft, and then you want to optimize it. So that's where I really help also my clients to really encourage to get that creative brain going, to just get their thoughts out there and just really be natural about it. Because the best marketing that I've seen from my clients is when they're literally just talking to me about why they started their business, why they created their offers, why they want to help certain people, and how they can help them. And even if I'm not their target audience, I want to buy their products and services because they were talking to me in such a natural way. And it was just so good to listen to that I'm like, I'm sold already, right? But then what happens is when you're thinking, oh, this needs to be a blog, this needs to be a podcast, this needs to be a social media post, we put all of those barriers, which makes it harder to create content and makes it so overwhelming. When at the end of the day, all we have to do is really talk about our passion, and then we can go on and just optimize that content for whatever platform we want to put it on.
And a lot of people find it difficult to write their thoughts down, and keep them in flow. Would it be a benefit to people, business owners, entrepreneurs, to perhaps record them on a voice recorder and then put them into an AI that can transcribe it for them?
Yeah, AI now is becoming so big. I mean, there is the rise of Chat GPT that made AI so accessible for everyone, but there are so many others that can do. Honestly, if there's something you're thinking of, AI can probably do it, right? And of course, we have to be careful with that in the sense that AI is not there to replace us. It's there to assist us, make our jobs easier, make our jobs faster, and make sure that it can really help us be the best that we can be. And an example I can give for that is just like you said, you're recording something and an AI transcribes it. You can do the opposite. What I like to do is to write my own transcripts. And then I haven't posted anything yet about that, but I'm looking into having an AI mimic my voice so that I can have a lot of voice content out there, because I'm someone who actually prefers to write. I do enjoy talking. I do enjoy doing lives. I do enjoy doing podcasts. But for me, it is much easier to write. It will always be easier to write. So I want to have AI help me create more podcast content, more video content, and more audio content without me having to always show up on camera, because that can be really exhausting for someone who's an introvert, right? But you can do the complete opposite. A lot of people, they enjoy talking so much when it comes to writing, they're like, I don't want to do it. And that's completely fine. So what you can do actually is, if you have an idea for an email, for instance, for your email marketing, you can just record it, ask AI to transcribe it, and it's right there, right? And AI can help you in every step of the way. It can help you with brainstorming ideas. It can help you with research. It can help you with targeting some different aspects of your ideal market and how to speak to them. It can also help you with repurposing the content you already have. Let's say you have a blog post and you want to create an email to invite your list to go read that blog post. You can send your blog post, to Chat GPT and be like, what would be a good title for my email for that? What could I mention? What are 3 things I could mention in my email to attract and drive traffic to my blog? And like, you should just do so many things with AI that can really, really help you streamline your marketing and have a strategy that is really cohesive, and make sure that all of the steps in your strategy really works well together. Because one of the things that I've noticed with myself when I first started, and a lot of my clients and people in my audience, is that there will be all these puzzle pieces in a strategy that could fit very well together, but they're not, right? And so what happens with that is that you're duplicating yourself in so many ways that don't connect. And so you end up having to create so much more content than if you repurposed everything and you just started from one, like you could start with a podcast or a blog, or, like even your social media, and then you repurpose the same content all across the board. And AI can really help you do that in so many ways.
Yeah, I'm a real fan of Chat GPT. It took me a while to work out how to get the best out of it, and I'm still learning. However, you've got to be careful with how you put your prompts in there, because it is only AI. It's not a real person. So they sometimes misinterpret what you've written in the prompt. I've come across that a couple of times. And if I don't explain it exactly what I want, then it goes off on its own little tangent. So it's just something to be mindful of, that you need to, what you put into it is the quality of what you put into the AI is what the quality that you will receive out of it. So it's I'm looking for something too that uses my voice as well, and I haven't come across anything yet. What's your suggestion?
So I don't remember it on the top of my head, but there's a lot of AIs now that can duplicate your voice. They've been doing that for celebrities, which actually I don't think is quite legal to do, because when you put because you need to put some MP4s or MP3s of the voice you want to clone. I think it's called voice cloning, and you have to click on something that says like you own the voice, or you have the copyright for the voice. So you technically are only supposed to do it with your own voice, or someone in your company that you are allowed to use. But most of the time, like most people that I've seen, I've been using it for celebrities, which I don't think is.
And we've got a couple. We've got a TV personality here who has his voices and image is being used for advertising without his permission, and he's ropeable.
Yeah, that's really not okay. I feel like we really have to be careful with, just being ethical in the way that we do marketing. And that applies to AI as well, because at the end of the day, of course, we have to remember that AI pulls from the internet quite often, which means that the content it's not AI that creates it, right? It takes it from the internet and then puts it in a very summarized, synthesized, format, so that it's easier to absorb than if you were just Googling something and then you get a bunch of pages, right? So that's why I always say that it's not wise to just copy paste something out of an AI. It's there to really assist you. But at the end of the day, you are the human that's creating the content, but you utilize the AI as a tool, right? It's a tool. It's not there to replace you at all. It's really here to help you. And when you keep that in mind, your content is going to be much better, because like you said, if you just take it, from Chat GPT, sometimes it will go off on tangents. Like I will send it a sales page that it's very in-depth and that has like all of the deliverables that's going to be about the offer. And then I ask him, okay, like write me an email about this. And then it says things that has nothing to do with what's on the sales page. And I'm like, where did you take that from? Right. And then I will ask it, because, it's a conversational model. Therefore, you can really like talk to it the way you would a human. And so I will ask, like, why did you include that? And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, my apologies. And then they modifies it. So I feel like you do often have to tell ChatGPT, like, do not go off on tangents, do not invent something that's outside of what you've been given. But it's like you said, like, the more detailed your prompt is, the more detailed and good the answer is going to be. But regardless, everything that I get from ChatGPT, I modify to match my own voice. I also modify to make sure that it is actually accurate, because it doesn't always is, right? I mean, I think at the bottom of when you are in ChatGPT, it's like it says that ChatGPT can give you inaccurate information. Like it's right there. So you do have to be mindful of that. But yeah, there's just so many things that you can do now. And I'm very excited to try the voice cloning. I feel like it's going to be a bit strange to hear myself knowing I did not record that specific audio. But I feel like it will save me so much time in terms of recording as well as editing afterwards. It's so time consuming, and I don't have the time to do it if I want to produce as much content as I want to, right? I feel like the role of AI is really to help us produce more and produce better, rather than to kind of cut us out of the production process.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I've had to edit some Chat GPT stuff just because they've included random things that weren't part of the instruction. And yeah, right, it does pull from the internet, and it has its own way of doing things. So yeah, it's just something to be mindful of, that you're not using inaccurate information. We've got, I think it's someone here that's suing Chat GPT because they said that he was a pedophile, and he wasn't.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so big court case on. So yeah, it's just, be very mindful of what you're putting into your copy, because
Yes.
just don't cut and paste. Make sure you read it first. Jade, we all want to be authentic. We all want to use our marketing in an aligned way with our business. But what are the best ways that we can do that so that we're not showing up inauthentic?
So the first tip that I always give my audience is to really, whenever you're creating any form of content, think of it as if you were telling a friend. Remove that pressure that this is a marketing asset. Remove the pressure that this is, for money or to sell or to do any of that. Because unfortunately, because selling has been done in a very unethical way by a lot of people in our past, and being authentic is kind of a new trend. So people, that the concept of marketing and selling and all of that has a very loaded, unpleasant, and sometimes negative, like connotation. And so when we put that in our own minds and we want to show up as, authentic, genuine, transparent, and all of that, and then we put those marketing, selling, and salesy and all of those words in our heads, it can influence the way that we're writing without us being actually conscious of it. And I've seen that firsthand in my clients. I've seen that in myself as well. So the way that I try to do it is really think of it as if you're writing or talking to a friend, and you're just here, you're not trying to sell. Because oftentimes when you're not trying to sell is when you're going to actually sell the most. Because humans in general don't like to be sold to. They do love to buy. We love to buy things. We do not like to be sold to, which is ironic, but it makes sense in a way, because we like to buy on our own terms. We like to be inspired. We like to be excited. We like when we see something that makes us hope, and then we buy the thing, right? Because we're hoping for some kind of outcome, some kind of transformation, or some kind of solution, right? So at the end of the day, if you're focusing on you're just talking to a friend about, why you created this program, why is it so amazing? What is some success stories from it? And like, if you're talking in a way that you're removing that kind of stigma about marketing and about selling, and like removing all of that pressure, it makes it so much more natural, more authentic, and also allows for a conversation to be had, right? Because when you look at traditional marketing assets, like an ad, for instance, there's no place for a conversation there, right? It's just telling you facts, and it's just like, okay, it's $8 a month or something, and then you get this, and this, and then you get like, I don't know, a sales page maybe where you get more information, but it's like just kind of pitching at you, right? And pitching works for ads because when we see an ad, we expect to be pitched, right? And if we don't want to be pitched, I'm not in a mood to be pitched right now, we will just scroll past. right? And we have the option to do that now. We don't have to, like, we're not forced to look at an ad. If we don't want to look at it, we can just skip it. Of course, with things like YouTube, sometimes we're forced to see a couple of seconds before we can skip it. But most of the time we can skip an ad. But again, we are like, when we look at an ad, we're expecting this, right? When I see an ad, I'm not expecting it to be any different than what it is now. And I'm fine with that. But when I am on social media, for instance, and I'm scrolling away on social media, I don't want to be pitched with every single post, right? And if I'm having a conversation with someone in my DMs, I don't want to be pitched with every single DM, because that gets exhausting. It is exhausting to be pitched all of the time. And we can say the same about, like, if I'm watching a YouTube video or if I'm listening to a podcast, I don't want to be pitched every second. It is draining. So if we're creating all of our marketing assets in the same way you would create an ad, that's not going to sound very genuine. It's not going to sound very authentic, because you would not talk like that to someone else. If you were explaining your job to a family member, you would not sound like that at all, right? And so that's why it's so good to be authentic and to really put our marketing in a very people-centered position, and like really have conversations with people through our marketing rather than just kind of pitch to them, because it makes it so much more natural, and it's much easier for people to also want to dive deeper into it, because again, they can do it at their own pace. They can decide if they want to be pitched to right now or not. They can decide if, they want to learn more about a service and without feeling that pressure of it. And they can just kind of learn about it in a very relaxed way. Because I feel like the way that the world has been kind of going in the past, decade or two, it's so fast. We have to be so productive. We always have to create more. I mean, right now with the rise of AI, there's some company like CEOs who are like, oh, because there's AI now, we're going to and it can help people create faster. We're going to request like 20 times as more output from our employees now. And I'm like, are you kidding? We finally have tools to make our lives better, but it's like the world just wants us to create more nonstop. And that creates an environment in the digital and in the real world of how just we always have to create things all of the time, always have to be productive. It's a very stressful environment. And so when we're on social media and we want to connect with other people, we don't necessarily want to be pitched often. Or if we're listening to a podcast when we're walking our dog or we're driving home from work, we don't want to be pitched all of the time. It gets very aggressive, even if the person has the best intentions, right? Because when we're marketing something, we're marketing a solution, right? Whether it's a product or a service, we're marketing a solution. We want to help people. But we're so drained because we get pitched. I can't remember the exact statistic, but we get pitched so many times a day. People are tired, and it's natural. It's natural to feel tired, to always be told you need something, right? Because the way that the ads are, it's often about you need this, you need that. This is going to change your life for XYZ, and this is going to change your life in ABC other way. And so we get told all of these messages all the time. And so it gets very draining when we get pitched in other places where we don't necessarily expect it, right? Because we don't expect it if we're listening to a podcast. Maybe at the end of the podcast, we expect like someone to say like, what is their latest offer? Or maybe at the beginning when, if you're listening to a podcast episode of an hour, you're not expecting to be pitched for an hour, right? We're not expecting that. So when it does happen, because people like will naturally go into that mode when they think marketing and when they think sales, what happens is it becomes inauthentic, even if people want to be the most authentic of themselves, right? It's just because as humans, when we have conversations, we're not pitching to people, right? It's only in the very like sales calls type of way or like the ads type of way that we're used to pitching. And so my best advice is to really just think, you are talking to a friend, you're talking to a family member, you're talking to your spouse, you're talking to your child, I don't know, whatever is easier for you. You're talking to your pet about your program, about why you created it. Make it as friendly and conversational as possible and invite people to interact with you. Because the more friendly you seem, the more welcoming it's going to be, and people are going to want to connect with you, to want to know more. Because if I see something that's too salesy on my feed and I'm mildly interested, but like I don't know yet, I'm not going to want to connect to that person because I'm going to be scared she's going to pitch to me or he, right? I'm going to be scared that's going to happen. And so because I don't want to be trapped in a conversation when people are going to be aggressive with me to buy something I might not want or need, I'm going to not want to have a conversation with that person. But if I have someone on my feed who's posting about their program and they're really talking about their story behind it, why did they create it? What type of success have they had thus far? And they're doing it in such a natural storytelling way, I might be more inclined to talk to them because I won't fear as much that I'm going to be trapped in an aggressive conversation. Because that happened to all of us, right? We've all been in sales calls where we didn't think it was going to be a sales call, but it was one. And then the person started telling us that we needed to buy their program for XYZ reason. And then if we didn't, we were never going to be successful. I've been called a coward multiple times in sales calls. I've been told like that I was never going to be successful. And if I didn't work with them, I was told so many insults. And like it was borderline verbal abuse at that point. And so, of course, now I'm scared. And it's natural to be scared when we've been in those situations. And so even if you might have the best intentions when you do your marketing and you know you would never be aggressive with someone, you have to be mindful that most people online now in the digital world have had those experiences and they're scared. They're scared of it happening again. And so that's why it's so important to be kind, to be patient, to be friendly, to be welcoming, and to be very authentic and transparent. The more transparent you are in your marketing, the easier it will be for people to trust you. Even if it means that you have to share your downfalls, even if it means that you have to share your hard days. I would argue that the more you share, the truth and the reality of your business, the good days and the bad days, the more people are actually going to trust you. Because now when we see someone who looks too good, too perfect, we know something isn't right, because human life is not like that, right? No matter which business you look into, no matter what job, no matter what life, there's ups and downs. Human life is ups and downs. That's normal. So when everything looks too perfect, it makes us wonder, what is that person hiding? Right? It's kind of a natural instinct now, because so often so many people portrayed how their business was doing so well, but when eventually you learn that no, it was not doing well, and this was kind of all a persona or a lie that someone just kind of portrayed because they didn't want to lose face. They didn't want to be embarrassed. And I can totally get that, especially because, back in the day, like if you didn't keep up appearances, I mean, you were going to get completely kicked out of the community. So I understand why people would have done that, but more and more people want that authenticity and they want that honesty. So that would be my second tip, to be as transparent and honest as possible. Of course, you don't have to share things that you feel uncomfortable sharing. Never do something you are uncomfortable with. But if you're someone who really values honesty and you want to share your bad day, you want to share what happened that day and how and what you learned, because you know that can help other people, then absolutely share it, right? Because myself and other clients, sometimes we've stopped ourselves from sharing our truth because we were scared that then people would reject us or think we were not experts because we had our bad days, or because we made a mistake, or because XYZ thing, right? Like it happens to all of us to fear that we might be seen as, someone who doesn't know what we're doing if we share that we've had this bad day, or we've made this mistake, or we've made this investment that we shouldn't have, or so on and so forth, right? There's so many examples here. But at the end of the day, I find that one of my most popular posts is when I am transparent, because people can relate to that. Every time that I post a mistake that I've done in my business, and then I talk about, I don't just say like, I've made this mistake, right? I also talk about what I learned from it. And, I talk about like how can you prevent this mistake? Like I go deeper into it, but because I do that, so many people can relate and can trust me way more, because they know that I'm a human behind all of this. I'm not a persona, that appears perfect, but, isn't, because there's nothing perfect in life, right? So that would be my second tip. And the third one is to really do something that you like, because you cannot be authentic if you're doing something you hate. At the end of the day, I mean, unless you look completely depressed when you're doing it, in which case I'm assuming you are authentic. But if you're doing something you absolutely hate doing, right? People will see it, right? No matter how happy you must look. If it's forced, we can feel it as humans. We can kind of tell. Sometimes it's not clear what we're feeling, but we'll feel something is off. And so that's not the best way to sell anything and to market anything, because people like to buy when they see someone who is passionate, someone who is excited, someone who's confident, someone who's curious, someone who has all of these, positive feelings. But if someone is feeling off, unsure of what they're doing, and they don't feel comfortable, it's not going to invite people to want to buy what we're actually doing or to be interested in what we're doing to begin with, right? So you want to make sure that you are actually marketing in a way that you enjoy. And like I said, there's so many ways now that you can market, that there has to be one that at least is not making you feel miserable, right? And that could be written content, that could be a video content, that could be a mix of the two. You can do so many things now. It's about finding that one piece of content that is easier for you to create, that you feel comfortable creating, or even better if you actually enjoy creating it. And then you can repurpose all across the board, right? If you're someone who really loves to do videos and you're like, I want to do a blog, but my God, I don't want to write it, then perfect. Get videos and then turn them into blogs, or vice versa. I'm someone who loves to write. So my starting point is always going to be written, right? Even with my podcast episodes, my solo episodes, I always have a script at first. And like, I'm not ashamed of that, because my scripts are so much better than if I'm just kind of left to my own devices and I'm just talking nonstop, right? With an interview and when I'm with someone else, it's easier because then I have someone asking me questions. But if I'm like completely alone, you can bet I'm going to talk for 3 hours, right? And it's something probably summarize in 30 minutes. And so that's not serving anyone. If I'm sitting here and talking for 3 hours and just rambling about when I could have done something concise and clear in 15 to 30 minutes and you would have gotten the same value, right? So for me, that's what I do. And I start with that. And when I got my script, I mean, I can make sure that it's really cohesive and coherent before I even go into recording. So I save so much time, because I used to waste so much time when I would like just kind of record and then try to get the transcript afterwards. I would waste so much time into like redoing it, editing it, then get an AI to transcribe it, then get a human to look at the transcript of the AI, because I have an accent. So AIs sometimes they don't know what I'm saying at all. I tend to mush words together sometimes. So the AI is like, I don't know what you're saying. So I need someone to look in it. And I mean, it would cost a lot of money, a lot of time. But if I start from a script, then I don't need to do any of that because my script is there. Right. And now advancements in AI, I mean, I'm very curious to see how voice cloning is going to do. But if I can get my voice cloned and then I just give it a script, then that's going to save even more time. Right. And it's something I enjoy. I do enjoy writing. So it's about finding that place that you really enjoy and to first start with that for your content, because it will change your strategy tremendously when you're doing something that you actually enjoy. And there is something that you will enjoy, or at least, tolerate, because I have a lot of clients who are like, no, I hate absolutely everything. And that's probably because you've been pushing yourself to do things that you really didn't like for so long that everything looks awful now. And so my advice for that would be to take a step back from everything you've been doing and just take a break so you can just reflect on what's been happening, and then you will find something that will sound better. Because I've been there where I forced myself to do a bunch of things I didn't want to do. I was doing so many reels and I hated doing reels. I mean, I love consuming them. I do not like creating them because I ramble. And at the time you could only do 30 seconds, I believe, for reels. So like I cannot do anything in 30 seconds. So it was like a nightmare for me to do that. And it made me so miserable. I wanted to quit my entire business. I was like, I don't want to market anymore. I don't want to do anything. And I mean, I had to take a whole break for a month before I was like, oh, okay, no, it's just the reels I hate. And if I'm doing my my social media posts that are written based and my email marketing and all of that, I'm pretty happy doing that. It was just the reels was so draining for me that it made me hate everything. So I get it if that's you, but that really that means you need to take a break. You need to take a break and think just about what were you doing at a point in your business where you actually liked, you actually liked the marketing that you were doing. Go back to that and remove all of the things that you added afterwards that were just not making sense for you and your business.
Yeah, very great advice. Thank you for sharing, Jade. Just quickly, you alluded to your podcast. What's the name of it and where can people find it?
So my podcast name is the Aligned Marketing Podcast, and you can find it, I believe, on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon Music, I believe. But you can also find it on my website, strategize with creativity.com/podcast. And yeah, it's a really fun project. And I feel like if I really find a way to clone my voice, like I said, and it's going to be so much easier and so much faster to create content, because for those out there who have a podcast, you know how much time it can take to do. And I wanted to, release an episode every week. And I waited until I had 10 episodes ready before I even launched it. And even so, it still takes me weeks in between episodes and there's so much to do. And I'm like, yeah, voice cloning might save my life. But that's just one of the tips. For some other people, it's the opposite. For them, what's hard is to have a script afterwards, right? If you want a transcript or if you want to repurpose that content. And talking is the easiest thing in the world, right? It's about finding what works. And in that podcast, that's what we talk about. I have a solo episode, and then it's a guest episode, solo episode, guest episode, and so on and so forth. I wanted to do it that way because I wanted to have solo episodes that were 100% about marketing, but I also wanted to have other experts come talk about, their zone of genius, because we cannot be an expert in everything, and that's fine. And so I wanted other people to come talk about, what they do best. And so there are some marketing experts that came to talk. I have a bunch of episodes recorded from people all across the board. I've had some people talk about human design and how that connects with business and marketing. And so there are a lot of cool episodes that are going to be coming really soon.
Absolutely excellent. I can't wait to have a listen when they're out. Jade, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your knowledge with us all.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.